It's a pleasure to be with you today, and I'm curious about if like the state of healthcare and how we take care of ourselves when we think about what's happening with AI. And we used to just go to Google and say, what does this bump mean, and all of these different things. But now we have AI, which is kind of changing the whole landscape, very much changing that landscape. What are you seeing happening with both our awareness about how to take advantage of these things and the responses we get with the technologies we use?
Well, I think that AI, not even I think, I know, right? It is beneficial in so many ways, right? We are able to maybe detect breast cancer 5 years before it's going to happen. And we know that early stage breast cancer is on the rise. So that's an interesting prospect for sure. But I think the thought that you're just going to cut the human element out of healthcare is incorrect. Also, the data sets that we have at this moment are not on not reflective of like general population,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Which is a historic thing. So I think that's a gap there as well. How are we training these models? I also think that like there's this element of like VC commandeering digital health and looking for the flashy thing and like the growth at all
Mm.
costs and like things that it can be scaled like fast, and then this is like you're crashing and you're burning, and there's all these nuances. And so, sometimes I have this friction point with my investors, not so much anymore, but it's like, okay, like, hey, like, what are you doing? How are you doing it? Why can't you move faster? And I'm like, well, because if this thing burns to the ground, all I have is my license and my integrity.
Yeah.
And that's how I can go back and work into a hospital. And at the end of the day, I know that we're here for profit, but my hope and my want is to provide access to the 300 million Americans that need it the most. And so if I'm doing that in a real way that is measured and thoughtful and based on, you know, uh, data and science and literacy, all those things, then I have to grow in this way.
Yeah, that was a really interesting point there, and how VCs kind of the incentives are misaligned with what you need in healthcare. And I want you to speak a little bit more
Mhm.
on that because I grew up listening to people like Mark Zuckerberg talking like move fast and break things, and you're saying like that does not work when you're talking about health. How can you encourage venture capital, which you need in industries like this to be able to fund a thing? How do they have to look at this differently?
Yeah, like so for myself, right? This is a new nutrition company, right? Nutrition company. We are registered dietitians. We see patients one-on-one, telemedicine. Are there places for us to use AI and to grow faster and by using technology and be more efficient and increase gross margin? 1,000%. But is that just the answer? Like, no, that's not just the answer. And so I won't name them by name, but you can think about other companies that are like prescribing compounded GLP-1s, for example. And it's like, okay, yeah, like, well, look what they're doing. Or you're selling supplements. Like, why don't you do that? And it's like, well, I'm not selling compounded GLP-1 because we didn't do trials on semaglutide acetate or semaglutide sodium. And I'm in the business of providing safe care to my patients. And so I can't do that. And I'm not going to give you supplements because maybe not everyone can afford supplements, right? That is a very elitist look, right? And so what are the things that I can help someone do? And I'm not saying you should have supplements or you shouldn't have supplements, but that's not what my business model is. And so I think that just like really understanding like what is the goal? The goal is to make people better. The goal is to get people to come in, see you, understand where they fit in, and also collaborate perhaps with their physicians so that we can get better outcomes. And so that's better for the group, the collective. And then I think there is the path to making more money, right? And so just being like judicious about the way that you see things and pouring more money on that instead of pouring more money on what you've been pattern matching for so long.
Yeah, you make me think about this conversation we have in our country about, how other countries might have free health care and, we have to pay
Mhm,
for it here and they may
mhm,
have better outcomes because the food they get offered are better and all these different
mhm,
things.
mhm.
As someone who's building a company that also supports good health and positive outcomes, how do you think about these things and are they also misaligned?
I do think that they're misaligned. Like the fact that, you know, maternity leave is not just like a standard thing here is really unfortunate. You're so stressed out. You have this baby. You have to like pay for the baby's childcare. Maybe you're not able to nurse. Probably some people are, right? Like I worked and I breastfed both of my kids for 1 year each, but I worked in a hospital and I worked with dietitians, and that was where we were forward. So I had a lot of support there. Everybody else, I mean, when I've worked corporate jobs after having had a kid, I'm pumping in a bathroom. What I can tell you, my sister-in-law, who's an archaeologist and gave birth to her second kid in Sweden, she was on a project for the country of Sweden. She is not a citizen of the country, and they paid for her maternity. And I'm like, wait, wait, wait. You don't even, you're not a citizen of Sweden. She's like, I'm on a
Wow.
government contract. I'm like, this is wild, right? Like, and so because of that, they didn't think about it. They were getting paid, and her kid was breastfed, and she was, exploring Sweden and doing all those things. And then that gives you like peace, and you can function, and you're not stressed out, and because you're not stressed out, you don't have a stressed out baby. These are like
Yeah.
cascading effects that are beneficial, and we're just missing the mark because at the end of the day we're always like, oh well, how much money can we save, how much money, what is that putting into our pocket? And you're like, right, but if people's mental health is suffering and they can't, hey, you could save a lot of money if you were supporting women in breastfeeding and making it
Yeah.
easier and letting them know that they could stay home and they didn't have to have a pump, and they didn't have to do this. And yes, of course, if you don't want to breastfeed, that's all fine too, no problem. But you're not even really giving people a solid chance to do it.
What is one digital, particularly digital, innovation that you think could radically transform some of the issues you're talking about with regards to our nutrition and preventative health and our community?
Yeah, I think that I do think that AI and scribing and allowing for the clinician to spend more time in patient care allows more relationship, right? The dietitian is the front line of healthcare, highly trained, underutilized. I sat alongside med students, nursing students, PA students. I
Yeah.
taught the med students at Sinai. I have doctor friends that message me and they're like, can you talk through this with me? Am I the smartest person on the planet? No, but I've had to see many different types of patients, right? For a very long time, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so because I talk to people for an hour every single week and insurance is paying me for that, I learn everything about them. And also I am trained. When you and I are talking, I'm just listening to you and I'm asking you questions so that then you tell me your whole life story in 3 minutes. And honestly, in 3 minutes, I know every single thing about you. And then I understand also how you work, how
Mm,
you see the world,
mm,
because I worked in a New York City hospital. The juxtaposition of placement of most New York City hospitals is within the community. So at Mount Sinai, there's the housing project across the street, and then also I've seen all of the celebrities, you name them, I have seen them walking through the hall, right? And I have to
yeah.
disseminate that same information. So I understand how you work, how you operate, and get you to do things. And so the more you allow for clinicians to do their job and you compensate them properly, the better outcomes you're going to get.
There are hundreds, if not thousands, of influencers all over TikTok and Instagram who, and I'm sure you've seen these, hey, you should not eat eggs. But then the other one's like, you should eat a lot of eggs. And the other one's, meat is killing you. Then the other ones, you need more meat from protein from meat, and et cetera. What are some of the most, because I'm just interested, curious, like what are some of the most dangerous things, because you're a dietitian, what are some of the most dangerous pieces of advice, and you can even go step higher, is like how we get that information. What are some of the most dangerous pieces of advice you've seen pervasive on social media?
I mean, it is. It's like it's the seed oils. You can't have the seed oils. You can't eat meat. You have to be vegan. You have. It's like, oh, hold on. Like, yes, being plant based is better. We know that. We can correlate red meat to colon cancer, processed meats to colon cancer. We can correlate all of those things. So like, no problem. Understood that those studies exist. But you're gonna tell people that they can only eat plants? Like after Beyonce's movie, I don't know, and then she was vegan, and every single black patient I had was like, "I'm vegan and it's not
Yeah,
working." And I'm like,
yeah.
guys, you don't have Beyonce money. So Beyonce's chef makes a grape tomato taste like chocolate. So
Yeah,
like this
yeah.
isn't it for you, and let me show you how to do it. Right? Let me show you how to do it. And so I
Uh,
think the problem with social media is that you see these famous people and you see them doing these things, and they're actually not really telling you the truth, which is they are rich. They are rich, so they have means to execute things. Most people live somewhere in the middle. So what I would tell you is, hey, you should eat mostly plants. So what could that look like for you? That could look like oatmeal for breakfast, a salad with chickpeas for lunch, and at dinner you're having chicken. And so, like, mostly you ate plants today, and that's likely good enough. I think when people talk in absolutes, it's very problematic. I think the
mhm.
other problem is, from my side, my governing body doesn't protect my license, and so that allows people to just come in and say that they know about nutrition. Most Americans don't understand what statistically significant is. I've had many patients. I had a patient once be like, "Did you read this study that tequila lowers blood sugar?" And I'm like, what is the study? Send it to me. So I look at the study and it was like N of two. I'm like, that is not a study. That's not
Yeah.
even a hypothesis. I was like, do you understand statistics, everyone? Give it to me. Let me help you understand this. And so it is a money grab. And also because our license isn't protected, you even see registered dietitians just talking out of both sides of their mouths because they want people to know who they are. I think there's this thing with dietitians that you're going to be, and I know this is like very hypocritical because I am on television and I am writing a book, and
Yeah.
so but I'm doing that because they're making me. It's like it is what it is. But like you're gonna be famous. You're gonna be on the Today Show, and that's gonna make you famous. And it's like, it's not. Nobody cares actually what I'm eating. They like to hear me talk because I'm funny and
Yeah.
I give it in a relatable way, but they're actually really curious about what celebrities are eating and what new diet trend those people are doing, because that is what we're looking at every single day. And so that's where we are misguided, misled, like, and it is a true, it's a true shame.
Yeah, what I find interesting about you is a couple things. One, like you studied healthcare, but you also have a strong business acumen, and that is not something you get taught necessarily in,
Mhm,
medical school, health school, all those
mhm,
things.
mhm.
What is different about your path? What have you been exposed to that gave you that level of depth and proficiency?
My parents are immigrants from the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere, and they both have advanced degrees. And, my mom is a nurse, and my dad's an engineer. My dad speaks seven different languages, and my dad was always hustling. He's like this black man with an accent who is leaps and bounds smarter and better than his white counterparts. And he had to figure out this place in the world. And so I just sort of watched that. And that was interesting to me. And I always thought about how things were built and how they work and what is the reason behind that. So I have like problems in relationships because I'm always listening to the words that you're not saying, or when you say things that seem to me like you're projecting. Is that because that's how you really feel, or is that 'cause, like, what is behind
Yeah,
that? And
yeah.
so that's always like a thing. But that's how I felt. And I think also I'm also interested in just trying things out. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try this out. I'm gonna see what works and what doesn't work. And then it's like, oh, that worked. And that was really impactful. So like let's build on that. And so that's sort of how Kalina came to be. It was like, okay, like we know how to be dietitians and we know how to build insurance. And so like let's just see where we go. This is just like, pay off our student loans and you know, it'll be fun. And then it morphed into this.
You have I don't know if it's still true, but you have an all female leadership team. Is it
Not
still
true
true?
anymore.
And not true anymore.
Not true anymore. No,
Okay.
we have two men now.
So I think the question can still be tailored for you. So,
Yeah.
what was powerful about that when it was true?
Um, I think that there were members on the team that were very like focus driven, like about the cause, right? I thought that that was like, okay, like we're gonna like lift each other up, and that's very, very good. And we don't have to worry about performing to impress a man here, because we're gonna get in here and figure this out. And so I think because we've gotten so far with nothing. We bootstrapped this. And Tamara and I put $5,000 in a bank account and said, like, let's see what happens. I didn't owe anybody any money when VC gave me money, and I was actually profitable when they came in. Like, it wasn't a huge profit, but I was making money and I was doing things above board. And so, and it was working. And I was like, okay, great. Now I'm just going to get a couple of people just a little bit smarter than me to help me, who have maybe have done this before, to help me take it to this next place. But I think we were all committed to proving that we could get it done. And that we didn't need like assistance from a man. We could figure this out, and we did. But I went to an all girls high school. I have like I think of things like that, you know.
How do you personally think about generational wealth?
I think that it is a tricky thing. I've seen a lot of this. I grew up, my parents, being the immigrants that they are, sent me to all the fancy schools, and we're like, okay, we send you to the fancy schools, and then you will have the same experience as white people, and then white people will treat you the same. That was not true, so that's where they messed up. I'm doing something different for my children.
Yeah.
um, but when I was in those schools, I saw wealth, crazy wealth, like people getting, Mercedes Benz on their 16th birthday and crashing it that day, and then getting a new one, and like it not matter, and it doesn't matter, and you're like,
Yeah.
wow, and like you
Yeah.
can call your parents and they'll write you a check, and that's really cool. And so, and I think that yes, you want to have stuff, you want to have enough money that your kids always know that if something goes down, the kid gets divorced, the kid loses their job, something goes down, they can always come to you. But I think also you have to remember, like, hey, no, you got to do it on your own. And I think that people are always interested in how I talk with my kids and how I raise my kids. My kids are like pretty autonomous. They're not perfect. They're 13 and 11. My eyes are very open. However, they understand the rules of engagement. The rules of engagement are this. You have a job. I have a job. Your job is you go to school, you are kind, you don't get yourself in trouble, you learn. If there's something going on and you're having issues learning, then I will help you. But that is your job. And if you can't do your job, then you and I are going to be in a problem. And you are held accountable to something. There are standards here. You don't get to, for example, my daughter is a good student, but she's having a tough time in math this year for whatever reason. And she had a test on percentages, and she was literally failing math. And I'm not out here berating my kid, telling her she's stupid. I'm like getting her the help, working with her. She's also in a house band. And so I come home, she has, I only say on Mondays, what are the tests? And they tell me, and then it's in my brain, and then I just keep, mentioning it. But again, they have to do it on their own. And so I come home and I'm like, okay, let's do a couple of problems. And she's not doing them correctly. And I'm like, she's like, I'm going to house band now. I'm like, oh, you're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. That's 2.5 hours. Please sit here and
Yeah,
do this.
that's
And
right.
I was like, you have a job. And she was like, oh, okay. And then she got an 81, which for her is like getting 101.
Yeah.
And so like, so that shows her. And it's not like mommy's not going to bail you out. I'm always going to bail you out. Tell me the truth. I'm here for you. Like all of that stuff, but you got to do a lot of stuff on your own. And I think that is the same thing with this generational wealth. Like, yeah, you can get something. That's no problem, but you're not getting all of it, and you have to work.
I love it. I love that.
Mhm.
It is obvious, it permeates through you that you're passionate about the work that you do, and I would say it seems mission aligned for you, and
Mhm.
I wonder how you balance that mission alignment with a scalable business model and the need to build a scalable business model.
Yeah, I think that yes, our core is how do we give access to the 99%? Great. Okay, we're taking insurance. So like that's phase one. And like, okay, great. We can go into employers, and we've just signed a bunch of very big contracts that are really exciting, and then more people will have access to it. Think like 120 members that buy on the same platform every single day, everything that they have, right? And we did that, and that feels very good. That's still an access point for people to come in and get our service. And then okay, now there's like more of the workforce. Okay, so now we think about where do we get the quality people? How do we train them? How do we put that all together? So we've actually done it slowly so that we know like okay, this is what works. We deliver it this way. Here's how we put in the automations, and here's how we bring more people in, and this is how they have to work with us. And yeah, that's not really exciting for investors, but when all these digital health companies like fell away and we were still here, they were like, "Yeah, this probably is the way, right?" So like, I'm actually like not bothered by anything. I'm like, I'm running my own race. There can be multiple winners at the table, so we're gonna do it the way that we can. We're gonna look at all the yes, competitors are raising at bigger valuation, and I'm over here like just maybe a little bit small, but I'm getting these contracts and these health systems and all these people coming in. So we're all gonna get there together, and there'll be many different points where people can access this service. And my job, my mission is also to go speak about that and say, like, hey, there are different areas for you. Like, you can do it, because I care about people getting market share. And then for us, like, it's coming. It is coming. We're doing it. And we've grown at least 85% every single year, and we grow
It's
at
remarkable.
least 10% month over month.
It's remarkable. Kudos,
Yeah,
kudos to you.
thanks.
Yeah, and because I think about the at least my awareness of insurance support, payer support for nutrition. You know, use in my at least in my acknowledgement of history, like they'll pay for the doctor for sure, or for the hospital for sure. But the preventative stuff was which backwards was an afterthought. Can you talk about the marketplace shifts that have allowed the room for Colina Health to grow and scale?
Yeah, I think, 2020 is COVID. It was the biggest mental health crisis of our time. A lot of money and like headspace was put into making sure that people had access to mental health. And then it was like, oh, wait, we can do this everywhere else, right? Like, this is really
Mm-hmm.
great. And so, like, hey, we already pay for this. Insurance was nutrition for care, billed by insurance, was put in Obamacare in 2008. It was the first time that nutrition was built in. And so commercial payers were like, okay, yeah, let's do this. And we're now seeing, like, we've seen, right, prevention is it, like spending more time with the patient. How do we do that? How do we coordinate care? This is the future. It's gone, this whole idea where, like, I just go to the doctor and they tell me what to do. Like, especially for us, that's how we die. So that doesn't work. Okay. So we have to be informed. We have to be able to ask questions. And we need to be empowered to do that. And when insurance payers started to see, because we track data that, and anecdotally, they're looking for $2,500 of cost savings when working with a dietitian. And we have proof, because we've been tracking data since the beginning of time, of like $7,000 of cost savings per patient, which extrapolated out is like $10 billion in savings. So that's what the payer cares about very much. The health systems very much care about making money. So you got to,
Mm-hmm.
like, teach them, like, talk to them in that regard. But I think it is very powerful to see, right? Like, Polina Health keeps less acute patients out of physicians' offices, because we're tracking the data every single week, and the patient has lost 20 pounds but is on metformin, and their A1C is high. So I say, I'm going to send the note to the doctor, and I send the notes to the doctors, and then I say, hey, patient has lost 20 pounds. A1C is still high. I think they need an adjustment of medication for metformin. And here is all the data that we've tracked. And the doctor's like, great. And they
Yeah.
increase the script. And then all of a sudden, the patient's A1C, the blood sugar is going down. And then ultimately the A1C is going down. And that's like, okay, great. Awesome. Perfect. This is what we want. And we are making sure that patients check in with their primary care physicians more than just once a year. Because you come to us and you want to lower a lab value. Well, I can't write an order for you to get labs. So you can go back and see your doctor, and then you can talk to your doctor, and then they'll send you back to us. And so then
Mm-hmm.
that's how people get paid, and that's how people get better care. And it makes sense. So it's this education piece, right? Is that people, because you just keep seeing on the internet, you're like, oh, I have to buy this digital course for metabolic health and lowering my cortisol, and I'm going to read this and it's going to work. And it's like, you don't have to do that. You can just use your insurance. I promise, you probably have 26 sessions and, like, maybe a $20 copay. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. What is in your EDC, your everyday carry? You are a healthcare nutrition CEO, and I'm sure you have something that you need before you leave the house, the apartment, the condo, the brownstone, wherever you at. What do you need daily just to make life happen?
I actually have to write everything down in my head when I wake up, and I have to write it down before I go to sleep. And then that quiets the noise, and then allows me to be more strategic. It allows me to be less reactive. It allows me to listen to myself, and to look to myself to be validated, and not outside.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, that is the thing. And then, like, all the other things, right? Like, I exercise every day, and if I don't eat a vegetable twice a day, I feel guilty, kind of thing. but that's but that stuff doesn't really matter because I do and I don't drink alcohol, and I still got cancer in 2023. So like that's not it. It's the taking the time to think through, you know, who your authentic self is, and like how can you live like that.
Hmm.
And so for me, it is very much therapeutic to like write down all of my feelings and look at them, and then I don't feel like I have to be so reactive and so compulsive.
So this is not just like a list of to-dos. This is a journal.
This
This is a
yeah, this is
journal.
like what's in my brain today. I feel this.
Hmm.
I feel this because of this, and this is how I'm looking at it, and and I just write, and I don't necessarily go back and like reread it. I just get it out of my brain,
Yeah.
so it doesn't spill out and affect you when we're having dinner.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you think about Vanessa's voice? I mean, you're on these big platforms, and people listen to what you have to say. And how do you, when you talked about, you're journaling, so you're getting the junk out or the good stuff out, you're getting it all
Hmm.
out, so you're not
Hmm.
giving them things that you don't want to. But how do you consider your voice and the platforms that you have?
I think because I am committed to telling the truth and like not changing how I deliver the message. I just this is how I talk. I talk like this to my kids. I talk like and no, like, sometimes people be like, it seems like you have a tone. I'm like, I actually don't have a tone at all. I'm very clear and directed, and I've spent a lot of my life trying to make people feel comfortable. And so it's not a tone, it's me being really clear and direct and not wavering from what's in my head because I'm not here to make other people comfortable. And if you don't like the way that I'm saying it, then I'm not for you. And that's okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
So I think that's it, right? It's like just staying true to myself. And then I, I think people see that and they're just like, hey, I like that. It feels like it's real and it's not BS. And so like I want to listen to more, and I think that's how I probably have gotten this far.
How have you learned how to lead a staff, a team of people? Like, this one thing, again, to be trained to be, in healthcare. It's another thing to learn how to lead as a CEO.
Mhm. Yeah, like I think first of all, in the beginning when you have a startup, you're in all of the shit all of the time,
Yeah.
and then you have to come out because you have to do other things, right? Like my job mostly is, talking the mission and vision of Kalina and a lot of fundraising. So you have to be very comfortable with not not knowing, you not being in the weeds, right? Like you have to be very comfortable there. You have to trust the people around you that they understand that everybody has a job to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
You're doing your job and they're doing their job, and they're going to inform you and protect you and make sure that when you go out to talk the vision of the mission, you are very clear on that. And so that's the thing. And there's this ego part, like hi guys, I'm a Black woman, and so if I don't know every single piece and I'm not in all of it and I'm not controlling all of it, then what are people going to think of me and what is happening? So like there's all of that that lives there too, right? And then also like it's the trust. Like I trust you. I presume you've done this before. That's why you're sitting here, and I know that I've given you a directive. I'm very clear. I think being clear is being kind. Someone told me that once, and so I'm clear on it. And you're gonna go execute. And I'm really not gonna be like telling you what to do every single minute of the day, but I'm gonna be really watching very closely, and I'm gonna just drop the things. Hey, like, have you thought about this? Have you done this? And then as time goes on, if I see like, okay, hey, like it's not happening, well then you and I have to have a different conversation.
Yeah.
But this micromanaging thing or whatever is that's not how I lead. I want people to feel like they are supported and they can come to me, and I do understand a lot of what's happening in the day to day, but that's not where I excel. But if you need me to in here to do something for you, then I can. And you know that. It's like my kids. You need me to do something for you, I'm gonna do it for you. Just tell me.
Yeah. Yeah.
But you gotta handle your life, handle your business.
Yeah, and in doing research on this and learning a lot about you, I've seen how you are very adamant about we need more people of color in this space, and more Black dietitians, more Black people in healthcare working and not just taking advantage of the services.
Mhm.
And in that same vein, like how do you think we as Black technologists, Black people trying to start businesses, Black career minded people and professionals, how should we be looking at healthcare and wellness and nutrition as a space for us, not only again to get services, but to contribute? and make sure we change the narrative?
Yeah, I think some of it is on the governing bodies. So like for example, the barrier to become a registered dietitian is really high, and many dietitians are hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and they're not going to recoup that money very easily. And if I have acumen for sciences, am I going to go be a registered dietitian? Or am I going to go be a plastic surgeon?
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so there's that piece. So the governing body needs to do something. We at Kulina are doing our part, right? We have 98% of registered dietitians are white women. Only 44% of our dietitians identify as white. We are very deliberate about that. We have cultural humility training at a regular cadence. We are very focused on having diverse patients and diverse data sets. So that is that. But I think also like VC needs to invest in this more, and not the pattern match, like, bro, that's all white space. Like, you doesn't have there are other group practices, right? That like, so but come in and give me money, right? Give me money
Hmm.
and then help me move forward so that I can help more people of color, right? Like if you think about, there are 300 million Americans, there are only 11 million black women, 11.2 million. But we know that our birth rate so what's happening here?
Yeah.
What? And why are you all so freaked out? Like, relax. There's not even that many of us. Everybody calm down. So, like, that is something then that we should be putting dollars behind. What are you doing? It's when I got breast cancer, right? White women are diagnosed with breast cancer double black women, but black women have a higher mortality because they do not finish treatment a lot of times because they don't feel seen and heard by their physicians.
Hmm.
I got the most excellent care at Mount Sinai Hospital because I have an excellent surgeon and an excellent oncologist and excellent friends and an excellent radiation doctor. But I also work there, and all those people are my friends.
Hmm.
And I leveraged every single thing, every friend I ever met. I was like, oh, no, I'm not waiting 3 months to get a biopsy. I need one in 2 days. Who's getting it for me? Like, oh, I mean, when the guy called me to tell me that I had cancer, he was like, I also called your OB, and he stopped a plane that he was boarding, and we've made an appointment for you for this surgeon. You're
Wow.
going on Friday
Wow.
at 2 o'clock, right?
Wow.
That's what I'm doing and my team is doing for everyone. And so when people of color come in, my favorite patients who were vegan and the A1C was like 13, and I was like, this isn't it. They're like, okay, like here it is. And that guy's like, oh, my A1C is 5.7, and now I'm gonna just walk my daughters down the aisle. And I'm like, yep, that's it. So like that is what we're doing.
Yeah.
That is what I'm doing. I don't, yeah, we all care about money because, I don't want to work for the rest of my life. I got that. But like, I want people to be well and feel empowered and feel that they have value, even when they don't have a lot and even when they don't understand a lot. And they're not afraid to go to clinicians that don't look like them.
Hmm.
I want to do that for them. I want, and we teach people how to do that, right? Like you go and talk to the doctor, and you talk to the doctor with like very clearly with data in front of you. The doctor can't refute data. They're not going to because it's right
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
so then you're coming from a position of power. And also doctors are just practicing medicine. Don't ever forget that. So go ask her all your questions.
Finally, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received about building something from the ground up,
Um,
or that you
you
have
know,
for building something from
yeah,
the ground?
I think it's like, hey, you've never done this before. You've gotten pretty far. Keep going. And it's okay if it doesn't work, try something else. Just try something else. You're doing more than 99% of the population. I think it's very easy to look at this and think that it's glamorous and it's sexy and it's so fun. And like, that's not the case. And I also don't think that going to work and getting a paycheck is glamorous and sexy and fun, right? It's an existential crisis all the time. Everyone's doing hard work, right? A stay-at-home mom is doing hard work. The
Yeah.
mom that goes to work is doing hard work. And I think that the thing that I have learned is this: you're not unique. You're actually part of a collective. You're all part of a collective. If you got that in your brain now and understood that most people feel the weight of the world and it feels heavy and they're struggling with things, and you gave more people grace, you'd probably get farther.